Hello, Bungie here with another video on Hallowtide. We've looked at so far hunters, actions, and activations. Today we're going to look at how to build an encounter to play those hunters in and control the creatures against them. So, quick note before you go any further, in order to play Hallowtide, you're going to need a 3-foot by 3-foot game place. In terrain to populate that, to break up line of sights, make movement interesting, and make for a more dynamic play experience. Once you have that, we can look to actually build out that encounter. So the first thing you need is an objective. The full game has 10 objectives for the solo and cooperative play, along with additional objectives for PvP and Battle Royale game modes. But the quick play rules uses the Purge encounter, which is also the most straightforward. Kill them before they kill you. Each objective will list a duration, how many rounds you have to complete this. In this case, 6 rounds, which is the standard duration for most games in Hallowtide. The victory condition. This is the goal that must be satisfied during that duration or for the objective to be considered successful. In this case, slay 60% of enemy models. That's just slightly over half. Kill more of them than they kill of you, you're good to go. Setup. In order to set up the board, Game of Hallowtide further subdivides that 3-foot by 3-foot into 4 quadrants and a center zone. The quadrants are 18 inches by 18 inches. When rolling for setup, you're going to roll a d6 and then place the models listed in those quadrants or in that center zone, which is 6 inches from the very center of the board. And each of those models should be placed within 6 inches of the prescribed quadrant, preferentially in an interesting place and behind cover. Next, you're going to need a secondary objective. This represents not necessary to successfully complete the encounter, offers an interesting twist on the gameplay, and a potential to get some bonus experience and bonus treasure in a longer game. These are some example of those secondary objectives. You have anatomical study, which is that you're looking for samples, and every enemy you defeat has a chance to drop interesting information, and you successfully kill the monster and then clear the clue obstacle to score the objective. Bandit stockpile, there is a trapped chest. You pick the chest, you don't trigger the trap, you gain the gold, you score the objective. And then you have the infestation one. There's a number of dangerous hives full of buzzing dagger wasps. Clear them out, and you're doing all travelers a service, and so on. Now we're going to look at the creatures that fill out these encounters. These objectives will be easy as pie if there's nothing to stop you, nothing to oppose you. But Hallowtide is chock full of dangerous and deadly creatures. We're going to look here at the Black-Tongued Witch, which is a practitioner who's steeped herself in foul alchemy and the dark arts and has driven her mad in the process. So you'll see a lot of similarities in this and a hunter profile. Chiefly among them you see size, 2, that's human sized. Speed, how many inches they move during a movement. Again, 5, same as most hunters. And damage threshold, how much damage they take before they drop. Now, most creatures do not have a stress threshold. They don't accrue stress like hunters do. But also they can't do things like take extra actions or exert on their rolls. Finally, all creatures listed in this base game are going to be rank 1. Now creatures also can rank up, and usually they escalate with the experience of the hunters, so they naturally level with them. But as all hunters listed in the base game are rank 1, all monsters that are listed in the quick start are also rank 1. Now, you see from that, they also have the same attributes listed here. But this is different. Creatures are divided into 3 broad types, which represents their challenge. Minion are the weakest. They're dangerous in numbers, but individually weaker than a hunter. Adversaries are roughly a match for a hunter one-on-one. And finally, elite can take on multiple hunters at once. You finally have there's a 4th, nemesis, which are the true boss encounters. We're not going to get into them here. Now, when you're generating an encounter, Most of them will have a setup indicating a monster of a certain type. So if it says adversary, you can roll in the adversary table and populate that. In the quick start rules, it just has specific monsters, but in the full rules, you have more randomization for your monster loadouts. And so monsters have all access to all the same actions the hunters do. However, they work simpler. They're simplified to a certain extent. So we, for ease of reference, we just list out their die pools for the actions they're going to use. All creatures are going to have a strike action. They always attack in melee. And this, they have to if they're engaged. Although ranged characters will prefer to attack at ranged. In this case, you have the listed bonus for their strike action, the DR, which is the automatic damage that attack is successful, and finally, the die pool they're going to use. Only monsters with listed shoot actions can attack at a range. In this case, Black-Tongued Witch is a ranged character and has a listed range of 8 inches, a d6 bonus on that, and a DR of 1. Finally, notice if a creature has line of sight to a hidden character during their activation, they roll their notice check opposed by the hunter's agility save to see if they can spot the hunter, and remove that hidden condition. Saves. This lists the most common saves that a creature is going to make if they have bonuses on them. In this case, Black-Tongued Witch has a bonus on both defense and conviction saves, and therefore it's listed here along with the appropriate pool. Any save that's not listed here, they can still make if they're targeted by an effect. But they're limited to their rank plus their appropriate attribute. Finally, you have the monster talents. What makes them unique. In the case of Black-Tongued Witch, Hexer. This is a deadly talent because Black-Tongued Witch's attacks with her insight versus the target's conviction. This means it effectively ignores armor. And secondary talent is a swift action called Withdraw. Now, how swift actions work. If a creature has fulfilled its prime directive, which is to attack in a round, and is yet to move, it will then use its second action to perform a swift action. In the case of Black-Tongued Witch and many other ranged characters, that is to withdraw, to move number of inches equal to their speed, directly away from any enemy units, and preferentially behind terrain. This means they will engage in hit and run tactics. Some other units may do extra attacks as swift action, drop traps, anything like that. Swift actions are varied. Now, we're going to look at how monsters activate. Now, this is the whole flow chart. It may look very confusing, but I'm going to boil it down to simple rules to keep in mind. First off, so creatures are going to have their activation cards in the deck just as hunters do. Although instead of hunters having a general card, which, every ace you can activate a hunter, whatever, any hunter in your crew, creatures have a specific card. So let's say when you draw the 7 of diamonds, you're going to activate the Black-Tongued Witch. They then have those two actions like a hunter does, a main action and a side action. They will usually, what the first thing they're going to check is if there is an enemy, an enemy they're aware of in range. If there is an enemy ranged in their max range, they're going to use that attack. If not, they're going to move closer and then try to make an attack. If they still can't get within range, they're going to take a double move to move as closest to a priority target as possible. When I say a priority target, when a creature is picking which target of many to orient on, it's going to first target the closest. Simple. There's a tie, the most damaged, and still a tie, the most stressed, and finally, if all things are else are equal, you'll determine the result randomly. Things get a little more tricky when the creature is not aware of any of the hunters. Then they're going to perform what's called a wander roll first, which you roll a d8. You then use the orientation of the top of the d8 to point, and they're going to take a move action, their full movement in that direction. If they then see a hunter, if they're in line of sight of a hunter, they will then make a notice roll. Again, that's going to be their notice action versus a hunter's agility save. The hunter fails, loses the hidden condition, and the creature will then notice them and either attack if it's able to, or move closer to them as a target is now aware of. If there is, after one wander rule, if there's still no hunters that the creature can notice, they'll simply pass the remainder of their action. Those are the general rules for how creatures activate, but they're here. The full flow chart shows some other niche situations. If you run into them, how to resolve swift actions, etc. I hope this was helpful. And after this, we're going to start breaking down actual encounters in order to give you an idea of how everything looks like and works together. And we're going to go through things like line of sight, movement, and the finer rules of combat. I hope you join in next time, and happy hunting.